morning. I'm very sad to announce that books will disappear within 15 years. And disappear means having less than 10% market share. 15 years is because the book is about that, and I want to be sure that the books will have disappeared within 15 years. But I could say that I'm pretty sure that books will disappear before 5 years. And I'm not talking about paper books. Paper books will stay with us, will have a market share of more than 10% in the future. What I'm talking now is about e-books. The black and white books that we download and we read in our readers. Those are the ones that will disappear. The same than records, the same than cassettes. The future will be with audiovisual books, with interactive books. They will not be downloaded, they will be read in the cloud, and the knowledge will not be only in the books. They will be in the relationships between the books, between the different contents, and in the relationships between the people reading it. So I have been asked to talk about the future of books, the future of publishing, the future of knowledge. How are we going to share the knowledge? And I have given you in a nutshell what I believe will happen, but I guess that you want to know why or what are the reasons I have for thinking that this will be the way for the future, and especially how this will affect the publishers, the authors, the industry, all of us. So let me bring you back to the monks, reading these beautiful books with color, the parchments, and then suddenly the print comes and the paper books appear, and they have black ink on paper that is really very dirty. I mean, when you read the books, you get all the ink, like in some newspapers now. So the monk will think, oh, the smell of my parchment was really good. The color was there. The power I have reading a book that nobody else can read, except perhaps the 30 monks that are with me. A book that to copy it will take more than 2 years. That's real power. So when we see now people that say, oh, the smell of the paper, it reminds me of that situation. Now, what changed was, of course, that before a book took 2 years to be produced. And with the printed, you could print, let's say, 50,000 books in a few days. Now we are starting to see a big change, which is the digital books that we all know. And we have to realize of what's the real change. The real change is not reading in a reader, a black and white book. No, the change is that before, with the printer, you need to print each copy. You need to move it physically to distribute it. Of course, it was not 2 years, perhaps it was 1 month, but you need still 1 month to distribute the books. And if you want to send it to Thailand, it will take probably like another month. Now, with a digital book, immediately, with no marginal cost to produce 1 unit more, you have the book everywhere. That's the real change. And we have to understand where is the change and where there is no change yet. Let me give you another example. We were with the beginning of the black and white cinema. And the world, up to that time, it was full of circus theater, full of sound, full of color. And then you have the black and white cinema. You need certain words to explain what's the story. It was not very useful, but of course the big change was that you didn't need the actors to be acting in front of you. You could film it and then use it again and again. That's the change. Here we are exactly in the same position. We are still in the black and white books. Then we will have like in the film, we move into color films, in TV, internet, we will have these audiovisual books. It will exactly be the same change. I was telling you that they will be read in the cloud and they will be read probably in digital libraries, and you will be paying to use those libraries through a monthly fee, through a subscription fee. And probably you know Spotify, you know Pandora. It's that kind of change that has happened in the music industry will probably happen in the book and in the knowledge industry. But I want to explain to you a little bit about what are the advantages for the readers and the advantages for the publishers of this new model that is starting to happen in the world. For the reader first, you pay less because you don't need to buy something that perhaps you are not going to consume again because you don't read the same book many times. So you really buy the right to read it, perhaps a chapter, perhaps you are searching just for a few words, or for a few lines. So you are paying for what you really consume. Another advantage is that the books will be updated very often, because with the print books, it was difficult to print books, but with digital books, you can really renew them immediately. So you don't want to buy something that is not updated if you know that in 1 month or 2 months, perhaps the book is different. You also want to search, you want to compare, you want to have freedom. You want to get a review from a peer and then read it. So it's better to be in a given environment where you can read exactly what you want. In some cases, perhaps a business school gives their students a reading material. They don't need to give the books. They don't need to give access to certain books, even if they are digital. They can give access to all the books. And it's much easier, the same with a company. It's much easier to give those books and that freedom to the students or to the employees. It reduces what we call the trading cost. The cost of training your salespeople to sell a given book, compare it to other books, so that they have arguments for the bookstores or for the libraries to buy those certain books. It reduces the trading cost in the buying side. You don't need to have a human resources manager choosing what books will be in the corporate university or in the library of certain schools. Though it has a disadvantage. Of course, there are many people that will think, oh, my role was to decide what books my employees should read. So if I don't have now that power to choose what they have to read, I'm less useful. Okay. Or perhaps a librarian will think, oh, if I don't choose what books I buy for my library, what's my role? Well, probably your role is to help the people to find the book that is more useful for them and to help them to read and to really extract that knowledge. But it will take a certain time to change the way those people think. We have been hearing about the peers' reviews. Of course, it's much more important when you are talking about the knowledge that can change your life, that can influence the decisions you are going to take. So for that, it's even more important to have good peer reviews. And those will probably come from people similar to you. And we will be talking later that probably the libraries will not be a library with all the books in the world, but will be specialized libraries in certain segments, so that the people that read those books will interact more easily with, within the group. So there are some advantages for the readers, but there are some advantages also for the publishers, not only because it reduces that trading cost, but it reduces the piracy of the books. In Spain, this has gone in the books from almost 0 to 43%. So one of the reasons for the declining of the publishing industry is that people buy less books, but not because of the crisis, not because of lower interest in the books, but because it's much easier to copy them. The publisher also gets much more information about what the reader wants, because they can choose among so many things. They don't have to buy it. It's not a question of availability or not. It's just a question that they decide to read this or they decide to read that. Or they stop reading in chapter 3 or in page 34. Why? If there is a significant number of people that stop reading a book in page 34, I better check that page. The way the books will be built will be different, because the book will be an invitation to navigate through internet, to share knowledge, because the knowledge will be already there. You don't need to read a book with 10 chapters. You will be using a discovery path that will link content that is already in the library, and perhaps you add 2 or 3 things, but the way you connect that content, that will be your book, your way of communicating. There are many things that have to change. In terms of publishers, the scarce factor in the bookstores was the space, because in a given bookstore you could have only 30,000 books. So if you dominate that space, the competitive advantage therefore was the distribution capacity. You were king. Now in the virtual bookstores you have everything. You have 3 million books. They all have the same space. They have a screen with a cover, with certain data. You cannot accumulate more copies of the book. You will not sell more. In the physical bookstores, yes, or if they were in the shop window, but not here. Now, the scarce factor is the capacity to be discovered, the capacity for the people to find you. Therefore, the competitive advantage is that capacity in the side of the publisher or the author to be recognized, to be known, to be found. That's digital marketing. Let's call it digital marketing. So there is a change in the way the publishers will have to build the books, because they have to really find very useful things, because if not, they will not be read, because the peer reviews will move much more faster. What is a specialized digital library? You can argue that it's better to have all the books in a library, but I would say that if you have a specialized libraries, like you go to a gym if you want to do gymnastics, you go to a golf club if you want to play golf, and probably because it needs more space, it would be farther away, but you are going to be there for 2 or 4 hours. So it's a good investment of your time to go to that golf club. So different clubs attend to different needs. And in a specialized library, you will attend to special people, because it's not that you have a subset of all the books that are, let's say, business books, but you will have other content related to business, like consulting reports or investment bank reports that are useful to that kind of readers, and you will have tools that enable those readers to be more effective. Perhaps you can share within a given group information, you can highlight it, you can summarize it, you can upload your own papers, so you can work with people in your company or with people across companies or in different study groups within a business school. So that's why specialized libraries will make more sense. And probably you think that all of this is socio-fiction. There are several ways to think about the future. One way is to try to watch the current trends. just to see what is being built. Another way is to use your imagination to think, oh, what should be good in the future? And the third one is to build the future. So that's easier to predict if you can build it. So in September 2012, I founded a company called Knowledge in Action. And we have a specialized digital library of business content, which is called bluebottlebiz.com. Now we have 80 publishers, from McGraw-Hill, Pearson, Cengage, Wiley, to Spanish publishers. Perhaps not our direct competitors. I'm very sorry that they are missing this opportunity. And now it's the biggest library of business content, but it's not a question of being the biggest, probably is the best. Well, first is the only digital library for business books, but it's the best library compared to other specialized libraries in the sense that it has all of these things we have been talking about. It has, like in Facebook, you have a wall where you can say your likes, dislikes, your own things. You can follow, like in Twitter, what other people are reading. If they communicate, if they say, I have read this book, if they don't say that, we keep the privacy of all the readers, of course. It has some LinkedIn features in the sense that you have groups and you have some background experience and so on, so that it's easier to build the relationship between what other people have read, people that have read this book, what they have read later, but you can also talk to authors of those books or similar books, and you can call in the advice of experts if you want, if those experts have defined as being linked to certain subjects. So I invite you, because it's for free for the 3 weeks, so I invite you to see bluebottlebiz.com, and I thank you very much for your kind attention.